Hello, and welcome to Making Sense of It. You ever wonder why you do the things you do? Well, this program is for you. It is our gift to you from the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory, where each week we have a representative of the Glasser Institute to present something about the concepts and how they use it and is effective in their life and is effective in the life of others. Our speaker today is a favorite and is one that has been with us now, giving all Robert Martin, and he is detailing all the 12 chapters of his book, which is Connect and Involve. And today's topic is using teams to practice. So that sounds interesting, Robert. Welcome.
Thank you.
And welcome also to those that are watching live and those that may be watching this later. You can always tune in live on Wednesday mornings or whatever time it is in your area and chat with our speakers live after the broadcast. So, Robert, we're ready when you are. Take us away.
Okay, well, we will switch to the screen, which we'll begin just in a second here. Okay.
Beautiful.
Then I need to take that out of the, okay, is that?
Yeah, you got it. It's just right.
I need to.
It's down on the left at the bottom.
What I'm trying to do here is to have fewer. I need to, there we go. I'm taking away the thumbnail. Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'm Robert Martin, and this is the 10th in our series on how to connect with students and involve them in learning. And before we even start, let me say that many of the things that I'm going to talk about here, I learned at conferences of the William Glasser Institute and other places as well, but especially at the conferences of the Glasser Institute. And I encourage everyone to go to the conferences because that's really where you learn how to do this stuff that I'm going to present. So, and of course the books are great too, so. Okay, so the problem is that as a teacher, there's never enough time to practice the big ideas and key skills that students need to do well on performance measures, including those high stakes measures that teachers are so worried about. And so one way of providing this is to use teams, because with teams, you can get a maximum of practice in a minimum of time. And this can benefit, as research has shown, the advanced students and the low skill students. And then finally, you can meet the needs of the students and build cooperation and community at the same time. So let's just give an example here. Imagine that you have 22 students. If you call on students one at a time, then it takes a long time to get through the 22 students, and probably you're not going to do that all in one day because it's just going to take too much time. On the other hand, if you can break the class into 11 groups of 2, just by having them turn to each other, then you have the opportunity to have 11 times as much practice by asking the question and then having each student in the group respond to their partner, and then the partner responds. And in a way, it can even be more than 11 times the practice, because when one student is giving the answer, the other is listening because it's one-on-one. And as I think people have noticed, when you call on somebody and you ask a question and then say, okay, everybody now, Sam, you take this, or Mary, you take this, or whoever. Maybe not everybody is listening. So why don't teachers use teams? This is something I've always wondered and been frustrated at. And I've talked to a lot of teachers, and I think what they will tend to say is, well, tried it, didn't work. Or they say, well, I don't want to lose control. And so how do we get around that? There are 5 keys that I'm going to present to making teams work to increase achievement that will not, where you're not going to lose control and things will work out fine. So those 5 ideas are teaching the big ideas and the key skills through practice, using small teams, short activities, teaching team procedures, and building in some accountability, and you're going to have some success. So let's go through what these guidelines are. The first being to identify big ideas and key skills that students need to practice. This has been a key theme through many of the 10 sessions, and here it is back again today. What you want to do is to practice what students are not doing well, not what they can do well. It's kind of like practicing the piano. The temptation is always to practice what you know rather than practice what you don't know. So as the teacher, you have the chance to identify what the students don't know and then have them practice those big ideas and those skills. So one thing you can do is to start with activities that are simple, that are brief, and that provide accountability. I like the tic-tac-toe graphic because it's an example of something that is simple and brief and provides accountability. There's always a winner, a loser, or it's a tie. The one thing you want to keep in mind, which can get into trouble, is to realize that you don't want to include new content and new procedures together because that leads to confusion. Therefore, teach team procedures separately from new content. And you can do that in the process of doing a summary activity, a closure activity, a review activity, and those will work well because the students already are ready for the review. You want to teach team procedures, which is you want to walk students through the same steps every time, all the time. And then after a while, they'll get it and they'll know exactly what to do. Good way to start is starting with teams of 2. And by the way, everything I'm saying here also applies to working with adults. Clearly, when I learned these things at conferences, we were all adults in the room and we all did it. We all had a good time and we learned how to do it by doing it. So a team of 2 is good. You simply have people divide into groups of 2. It provides maximum practice. It's easy to learn. It's easy to keep everyone engaged, and it's easy to keep the activities short. So you're not going to lose control. Teams of 4 are the next easiest, I think, because you can combine teams of 2 into a team of 4 and have each team share its information with the other teams. And there are other ways of using teams of 4, but this is a really good one that's easy to master. Teams of 3 can also be good. I wouldn't use them as much. I would tend to use them where you have 3 roles that you need students to take. For example, let's say you want to have one student provide reasons for something, one student provide reasons against something, and then you want to have a recorder to write down all the ideas and be able to share them either with the whole class or with other groups. Teams of 5 or 6 are good for brainstorming ideas or sharing information. I wouldn't use those as often, but if you do want to use them, then it's very easy to combine 3 groups of 2 into a group of 6. Or you can also just have the students count off by 5 or 6 and generate that way. Okay, let's talk a little bit about structure. Some things that keep you having a sense of control. And the point is, you're controlling the flow of what's happening, not the students. That's how you get into problems. That's how you get into difficulties. That's how you get into conflict. First of all, is you want to use heterogeneous teams for most tasks. That is, that you want to have a mix of different skill levels, because that's what's going to work best for everyone to learn. The research shows that both the advanced students and the low skill students will gain in a heterogeneous group. The second thing is you want to give assignments where everyone can learn at their own pace. So if you give open-ended questions, open-ended assignments, you ask for examples, you ask for other kinds of things that are open-ended, then each student is going to be able to come up with ideas at their own level. In general, it's a good idea to assign students to teams to ensure diversity and avoid conflict. It's okay occasionally to also do random groups as well, but you want to assign students so that you do have heterogeneous groups. And over time, you want to work things so that you have all students working with one another. And after students have built up skills and are getting used to it, then you can put students together that you're concerned about because they've learned how to behave properly. Another thing is, okay. If you're going to build your own expertise and also the students' expertise by using the same procedure for, let's say, 2, 3, 4 weeks before introducing another procedure. You want to use the same procedure for lots of different kinds of content, and you want to limit the time for each step of the procedure, and you want to walk students through that so you're controlling how things are working out in time. And then you're building in accountability through a product or a performance. And this is true for everything, whether you're using teams or not using teams. You want to have accountability through either a product, which could be some kind of writing, diagram, a concept map, it could be a test, or a performance where students are presenting something to the rest of the class or to people in their own group or to another group. To build your own confidence, because again, this is what teachers said they were concerned about, was it didn't work and they were afraid of losing control. A good way of doing this is before doing the procedure for the first time is to write out the instructions on an index card and practice them. Even for the most simple procedure, it'll help you to keep on track. So here's an example in which a teacher went from fear to confidence. That teacher was me, also a student of team learning. I got an opportunity at Purdue University to do a 2-day workshop for first-line supervisors in Seymour, Indiana. Now, when we're talking about first-line supervisors, we're talking about people who work in a factory, some kind of a situation where each supervisor knows the job, can do the job, and then because they know it so well and they can deal with other people, that they're going to have 5 or 10 workers that they're responsible for. They don't want any theory. They just want practical techniques. They don't want somebody talking to them all day. So one of the things that my supervisor at the Purdue Extension Center said, well, give them a 10-minute burst of information and then have them do an activity. And by the way, what I was doing with them was basically the same kind of classroom management activities and ideas that I've worked with teachers, same kind of communication skills that I worked with teachers. So what works with kids usually works well with adults too. And I made the index cards. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you can see this or not, but here's a copy of the book that I made. And it looks just like these books you see down in the graphic. And I was well prepared and it was a big success. Now, most teachers are not going to be doing a 2-day workshop, so it's a lot easier. I was pretty nervous because it's like, wow, if I die the first hour of the first day and I have 2 days left, oh, that's going to be very unhappy for them and for me. So it worked and everybody was very complimentary. They appreciated the activities I gave them and they appreciated the information and they were able to go out and do what we had worked on. Let's look at 4 procedures you can use over and over with a variety of content. These are, you can find them in various books. They're in Kagan's Cooperative Learning book. I also learned to do them from Kagan at a workshop, but I also practiced them and learned them at the Glasser workshops. Let's start with right pair share. You give the students a question to answer individually in writing. And this will work from adults down to kids who can even just write 3, 4, 5 words. Doesn't even have to be a sentence. It gives them practice in thinking what their answer needs to be, and then they can have practice in talking about that answer. And that's really important because when it comes to taking a test, particularly a high stakes test, we know that reading and thinking and answering those kinds of tests are learned through, first of all, thinking in words, through talking, through conversation, through reading, and then finally, and through writing, and then through test taking. The advanced students are already able to do this. Those with low skills need this kind of work. And the advanced students will also profit from it as well, as the research has shown. Then what you want to do is have each pair count off by ones, by twos, 1, 2, 1, 2, and so on. So half the class are ones, half the class are twos. Then you simply ask, okay, all the ones stand or all the twos stand. You kind of mix it up from one time to another. And then the ones stand and share maybe one sentence. Share one thing that you shared with the group, with the whole class. That'll go very, very quickly, and you will hear all of the answers. And also all the students will hear the answers as well. Another one, which I consider more advanced because you have to trust the students that they'll actually think and do this. And that is, give the students a question to think about. Then give them a minute and a half, and then have them turn to a partner and share their answer. Then again, have each pair count off by twos, and have either the ones stand or the twos stand and share their answers. Another one that I like is round robin, because you get to treat the whole class as a team. You can have the whole class form a circle, and you can do this very easily by just having everybody get out of their seats, form a circle around the outside of the class, provide a question or a statement, and then have one student start around the circle, and then everybody responds with a single sentence, and urge them to do that fairly quickly. Round robin is a really good summative activity, a good closure activity. State one thing you learned today, last 5 minutes of class. Another one I like is sentence completion, because it's so easy to do. Have the students form groups of 2 or 3 or 4, or it could be more. Give them a sentence. I learned today, the big idea for today, in this article, the author says, whatever you want, you need to prepare a sentence stem and then have them write out their answer. And then again, have the students number off, pick a number, and have the students with that number stand and share one of the answers that came up in their group. The important thing to realize is you can modify team procedures to fit your situation. You don't have to follow my directions or somebody else's, Kagan's. You can do it to fit your own self. Let me give a couple examples. One is, and I suggest that you always do this, is allow students to pass, particularly with something like round robin. Somebody's going around and they get stuck or they're a little petrified talking in front of the whole group, you can allow them to say, I pass. They're still speaking, they're still participating by passing, and you're avoiding conflict with the student, you're avoiding embarrassment, you're showing respect for the individual. Another thing you can do is, if you don't want to take the time to have them share with the whole class or another group, you can have them sign their papers, turn them in at the end of the period, and then monitor what's happening and whether or not you're being successful. You don't even have to grade them, or you can simply give them a participation grade. Another thing you can do is assign students to groups and switch once a week or once every 2 weeks, whatever you want to do. Another thing you can do with, for example, round robin is you don't have to do it with the whole class. Although I like that as a closure experience, because they're all getting ready to leave anyway, and then it's a good review. Chances are, if you get around the complete circle, everything that was discussed during the class period will be hit. And you can have them do it in, let's say, 3 or 4 round robins going on at the same time. You can walk around and monitor, how's it going? How's the sharing going? Are they doing what you ask them to do? A little bit of a summary here, just to recall where we've been here in the last few minutes. Through teams, you can build mastery of big ideas and key skills, especially those that students need to practice because they're not quite getting it. At the same time, you're also developing skills of thinking and writing and speaking, which is really important, particularly for the lower skills students, because the way we learn to take tests is first through thinking by speaking, then thinking by reading, then thinking by writing, and then finally coming back to taking tests, particularly high stakes tests. And we know that the low skill students don't get enough speaking and reading experience outside the classroom the way the high skill students do. You're also going to build community and cooperation, and you're going to meet the students' needs for belonging, for power, fun, and freedom. You're going to increase responsibility, all while increasing achievement. Now, these first 4 things I've mentioned, actually it's 3 things, however you want to count it. These are all of the things that Glasser spent his whole career talking about and encouraging. The thing that teachers often have trouble is, well, I don't have time to build community and cooperation. I don't have time to have special things to meet students' needs or work on responsibility. But when you do this kind of team activities that we're talking about, you're doing all of this at once. It all works together. And in fact, as you build community and cooperation and meet students' basic needs and increase responsibility, that also increases the mastery of big ideas and key skills. It all works together. It all works together. And then finally, coming back to our initial idea, you're going to be giving the students 10 times or more practice time than calling on students individually. You can still call on students individually, that's fine, but you can mix it up according to what you think makes sense to you. So, in conclusion, if you want to provide students with practice, and that's really what they need to learn, because students learn what they do, not what the teacher does, then carefully managed teams can provide a way to do this. Next time, we're going to talk about advanced use of teams and team projects. And if you're interested in maybe some of the ideas from the book and you would like a free copy of the chapter that summarizes what's in it, just email me at rmartin@truman.edu. So thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Robert. Very informative. I noticed there with the little tic-tac-toe thing that whenever you help to become accountable, that you win, lose, or draw, that is also another word for being aware. The accountability is being aware of what's going on. And as you explained it so beautifully, working first with one-on-one and in groups and so forth, that it grows into community and cooperation.
Exactly, and that cooperation and community feeds back in so that you're able to do more complex kinds of things with the students, and that's what we're going to talk about next time.
Right. Those activities actually acclimate, and it gives them more confidence. So then they can go into the community and cooperating.
Yeah.
Okay, well, whenever Robert and I was talking a few minutes before we started recording, he made the comment that you don't learn from success. And when I questioned you on that, Robert, what was your philosophy of life?
Oh, make more mistakes faster. I love the time that I heard Glasser, this is probably in one of the books too, but I heard him say, it's like, well, I said to the teachers, well, you need to have class discussions. And they said, we don't know how to do that. Show us how. And he said, so I sat down to do it and I couldn't do it either. So I did it over and over and over, and I learned how to do it. So I thought that was just tremendous modeling. And that's the kind of person that you really respect, because they're being honest and saying, hey, I've done this and I did it through trial and error, and I learned what worked, and now I'm sharing it with you.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. So thank all of you that are tuning in and those that are watching later. And you might want to get the book and learn how to be connected and to involve your students. So,
One more thing I'd like to share.
okay.
This was something that I was reading last night, and that is 10 seconds to happiness. And that is that for 10 seconds, you identify one or two people that you would like to be happy. It could be your students, a fellow teacher, it could be somebody you can't stand, whatever. And you just wish them happiness for 10 seconds. And that will make you happy because you're giving away something, your goodwill, and you will be happier through the day. And you can do this as many times as you want. So I think I just wanted to share that because that's what it's all about with doing the teams. One of the things I used to say to the kids, as a psychologist working in the schools, they don't ever send you kids who are doing well. They always send you kids who are not doing well. And sometimes I would say just like, well, my job is to help you be happier in school. And it would be like, what? I thought I was in trouble. And it's like, well, yeah, you are, but that's not what we're going to focus on. So the team learning is fun to do. And one of my favorite authors who only worked with teachers of adults said, the more fun they have, the more they learn. And he was talking about adults. We don't think kids should have fun because they might not be learning anything. Well, if it works for adults, then I think it works for kids too. So it's worth the effort. It's a little bit of an effort to prepare, but it's really, really worth it. And you're going to increase the achievement. So, and I know that's what teachers are worried about. And everything here also works for adults. So,
Well, all right. Words to live by. Thanks a lot, Robert. And
thank you.
blessings to all. Good mental health.